Hello, my dear students. Hope you are all good and safe. So now we are almost towards the end. In fact, today is the last video for this particular chapter, and next week I'll be sending you the worksheet for this. Okay, so last time I hope you have gone through the explanations of transpiration and ascent of sap properly, because as I mentioned, it's very important topic from your board's point of view. So you need to remember these topics very clearly, right? In the future too. Today, I will be concluding the chapter with minerals in plants. So let's just begin. Now, minerals, as you all must have studied even in lower classes, are very important for the growth and development of organisms, right? In balanced diet, apart from proteins, carbohydrates and fats, we have always studied that vitamins and minerals are equally important, though the requirement or the amount that is required for vitamins and minerals is definitely much lesser than your main nutrients like proteins, carbohydrates, fats. So similarly, minerals play an equally important role in the plants as well. And as the minerals perform their function in the animal body, the same way, even in the plant's body, there are a lot many reactions going on in the cells and each and every physiological process. Now, physiological process are the processes which are important to sustain life. Okay, for example, respiration is a physiological process. Then photosynthesis is another physiological process. In animals, there are many more, like your nutrition, then digestion, then circulation. So similarly, the physiological processes in plants, though they are simpler and less in number, still require the minerals for their functioning or activation. And even other aspects of the growth are covered in covered by the minerals. All right, so let's see what does minerals really do. Now, minerals play an important role in the growth and development of plants. Okay, the minerals, how they will be taken up? The plants will obtain the minerals from different sources. Definitely soil is one, and from the soil again it will be always dissolved in water because it cannot be absorbed otherwise, right? So based on the quantity needed by the plants, they are then further categorized into micronutrients and macro. Now, micro word again is a prefix to many other words, like which one is commonly known to you? Right, microscope. A microscope is used for observing very small organisms which cannot be seen otherwise by the naked eye. Similarly, micronutrients are those nutrients which are needed in small quantities by the plants, and macronutrients are those which are required in larger amounts, right? So the list given here is of macronutrients and micronutrients. You can just quickly scan through. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, calcium, magnesium are all included in macronutrients, whereas the micronutrients are iron, manganese, copper, zinc, boron, chloride and molybdenum. Okay, now how do plants get their minerals? In fact, this chapter was all about these processes, but still we can quickly go through how the minerals get absorbed. Plants take up some dissolved mineral salts by diffusion. However, diffusion will not happen if the concentration of minerals in the soil is more or greater than inside the root, which is usually the case. You remember active transport. So outside, the concentration of minerals will always be more than inside. All right, so if the concentration of minerals outside the root is lower then inside, then the root will take up the minerals by active transport. Otherwise, what will happen? It will be osmosis, correct? Right. So the processes utilized for absorption will be diffusion, osmosis, and active transport. All the three are used for the uptake or absorption of minerals. Is that clear? All these minerals taken are very, very important or essential for the plant's growth. All right. And what will happen if the minerals are lacking? If the soil lacks in the minerals or the plants are not able to get it from any source, then it will lead to deficiency diseases, or it will not be proper diseases, but definitely the organs of the plants, maybe flowers, maybe fruits, maybe stem, maybe leaves or roots, any of the organs could be affected, and the processes inside the leaves could, that is photosynthesis or any other process that happens, the growth, growth of the embryo or the cell division, any of this could be affected if the minerals are not enough. Okay, so plants do not grow properly if they are deprived of minerals and begin to look unhealthy. In fact, even you with your age and whatever you little knowledge you have about plants, you can also spot an unhealthy leaf. So once we get back to school, we can have a tour of our ground and the trees or plants that are planted on the at the boundary and behind. We can just have a look and we can mark those plants which have healthy leaves, which you can visibly see, and which do not have healthy leaves. That means there is definitely some deficiency in the soil, or that plant requires a particular nutrient which is not available. Okay, so if a plant does not get enough of a mineral, it is said to have a mineral deficiency. Do mineral deficiencies affect a plant in the same way? No, it doesn't affect in the same way. Different minerals will give rise to different effects in the plants. So the first list here is of micronutrients. Okay, I have listed down the minerals, the functions, and deficiency diseases. Now manganese, what happens is it helps in the activation of enzymes. Now enzymes are biocatalysts, right? I don't remember whether we have discussed this before, but I hope you are aware of the term catalyst. If not, let me clarify. Catalysts are chemicals which help in speeding up a reaction. All right, and they just help in speeding up of the reaction, but they do not themselves take part. Okay, they just help in mediating or speeding up the reactions. Now enzymes are biocatalysts because the chemicals present in the cells in the living organisms are called as biocatalyst because they are found in the living organism, or the other name is enzymes. So these enzymes need to be activated, and manganese is one responsible for that. Deficiency of manganese will lead to yellowing of the upper leaves. All right, next comes copper. Now upper leaves, if anybody of you have some doubt, upper as in the upper side of the plant. All right, not towards the lower, the apex. That means the tip of the plant, the apex of the plant will be affected. Copper is the next. It acts as catalyst in formation of chlorophyll, a very important pigment for the living world, because without chlorophyll we cannot trap the sunlight and we cannot convert the carbon dioxide and water into glucose. Okay, so chlorophyll needs to be formed, and for formation of that we need copper. What will happen if there is less of copper or deficiency? Wilting of leaves. Now summer is the best month to observe this phenomenon called wilting of leaves. The leaves will just curl, or they kind of droop because of lack of water. Now in summer what happens? Transpiration is more and absorption of water is less, so the leaves will start drooping down. Okay, and if the soil is provided with enough amount of water, then the wilting of leaves doesn't happen. So it is basically lack of water and also lack of copper. Okay. Then bluish green cast on vegetables. Now this is something, it's the kind of pigmentation that happens because of this copper deficiency on this vegetables. The coloration will be a different color of green, it will not be a healthy green that you see on the vegetables. Now molybdenum is next. Nitrogen fixation in root nodules. Now what is nitrogen fixation? Basically this leguminous plants, which the pulses, they have this colonies of bacteria which help in fixing atmospheric nitrogen. Now you people don't have to understand that much in details, but for this you just need to remember the list of micronutrients and macronutrients. Definitely it will not be asked in details for your assessments as well, but for you to understand, children, nitrogen is a very very important macronutrient for the plants. Unfortunately, the free nitrogen in the atmosphere is of no help because it needs to be converted into absorbable form, and that is nitrates or nitrites, right? So for conversion of this nitrates and nitrites, the bacteria, there are certain bacteria which are available either in free form in the soil or inside these colonies that are formed on the roots of this particular group of plants called as leguminous plants. Leguminous plants are nothing but the plants which are the ones which the pulses that we call. So then this bacteria will help in converting the free nitrogen into nitrates or nitrites, and then the plants will take it up, correct? So this process needs molybdenum for activation. Got it? And then if deficiency is there, what we will see? Interveinal chlorosis. Veins, there are veins in the leaves. Remember 6th standard, reticulate venation, parallel venation, arrangement of veins, nothing but your xylem and phloem, correct? So this veins turn yellowish in color, and so it is called as interveinal chlorosis. Zinc is the next one, which helps in activation of enzymes again, and auxin synthesis. Now auxin is a plant hormone. What are hormones? Hormones are chemical messengers. I'm sure you must have heard about the thyroid gland present in our neck, produces a hormone called thyroxine, correct? So similarly, even plants have lot of hormones for their work, their processes, their life processes. Auxin is one of them, and hence zinc is required for the synthesis of auxin and activation of enzymes. What will happen if there's zinc deficiency? The leaves will not develop properly. Okay. Then comes your chlorine. Chlorine supports in photosynthesis. So for the process of photosynthesis, the requirement of chlorine is there, and the reactions, rather photosynthesis in itself is not one process, but there are many processes going on in photosynthesis, and in those various reactions we require chlorine for its functioning or activation, and lack of chlorine will give rise to reduced root growth. Okay, you can see that though it supports in photosynthesis, but the deficiency is affecting elsewhere. All right, it affects the growth or development of roots. The next list is of macronutrients, and we can see the list over here: potassium, sulfur, nitrogen, calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus. Let's begin with potassium. The activation of enzymes again in photosynthesis, maintaining water balance. In fact, sodium and potassium also helps in maintaining water salt balance in our bodies as well. Then improved quality of fruits and vegetables. Okay, Deficiency leads to the weakening of the straw in grains. All right. So the straw is what? Are you aware of what is straw in grains? Straw is the covering of the grains. Once the grains are harvested, they are removed. The remaining part of the grains along with the stalk will be the straw. Though we don't have much of its use for us, but definitely for the plants, it forms the protective covering of the grains, so they need to be of proper quality. Then yellowing of tips and margins of the leaves. Sometimes you will see that the leaves are not turning complete yellow, but only the tip of the leaves are yellow, or the margins of the leaves are turning yellow, and that is because of lack of potassium. Then next is sulfur. Again, it forms a very important part of amino acids. Amino acids, where have you heard this term before? Right, in proteins. So whatever proteins we eat are digested, and what is the most simplest form of proteins? That is nothing but amino acids. So what our blood will absorb is amino acids. Okay, so these amino acids contain sulfur. Same is with the plant proteins as well. It also gives that characteristic odor to onions, garlic and mustard. That strong scent of the strong odor of onions, garlic and mustard is because of sulfur. Deficiency of sulfur leads to stunted plant growth. Stunted, that is reduced. If the plant is supposed to gain a normal height of about say 5 feet, the plant will achieve only 3 feet and then stop growing. Okay, so just you can say Lilliput plants. Okay, stunted plant growth. Next is nitrogen. As I mentioned, a very important aspect of macronutrients in plants, helps in protein synthesis, and it forms a part of chlorophyll itself. All right. So what is the role of nitrogen? It will help in protein synthesis, very crucial for plant growth, and forms a part of chlorophyll, a very important pigment. Stunted plant growth and delayed maturity, or yellowing of leaves or chlorosis. So these two are the effects if the plants lack in nitrogen. Definitely we can't have stunted plant growth. And why do you think the plant maturity is important? So that it starts giving the fruits, right? So the plant has to mature to start the reproduction process. For that we require nitrogen, or else what will happen? The fruits will not be formed, and then it will be of no use for the plant itself. Forget about use of us, but if the plants are not achieving maturity on time, the fruit formation doesn't happen, the plants will not be able to perpetuate, right? It will not be able to reproduce. So stunted plant growth and delayed maturity is the effect, as well as yellow of leaves or chlorosis. So the process of yellowing of leaves is called as chlorosis. Then comes calcium. It strengthens the cell wall and supports the root and tip elongation in case of plants, plant cell. And absence of calcium or deficiency of calcium will stop the growth of terminal buds. Terminal, that are at the end of the plant. On the sides between the stems are the axillary buds, and terminal buds are there at the tip of the plant. The upper tip of the plant are the buds that are found on the upper tip of the plants are the terminal buds. Okay. Then is magnesium. Magnesium again helps in the formation of chlorophyll. So you can see that so many minerals are involved in the formation of chlorophyll, right? And hence it is of utmost importance to the plants that these nutrients are made available to them. Again, lack of magnesium, deficiency of magnesium will give rise to interveinal chlorosis. All right. Same we have seen earlier also. What are interveinal? That is between the veins, when the coloring turns yellow, it's called interveinal chlorosis. And the last one is phosphorus, which forms the constituents of the cell membrane. Okay, there's a difference. Now I want you to understand calcium is forming the part of cell wall, and phosphorus is forming the part of cell membrane, the plasma membrane. I hope you're aware of the difference, right? Okay. And also it helps in protein synthesis, whereas the deficiency of phosphorus will lead to poor root growth and delayed seed germination, both detrimental for the plant growth. So we need to have proper roots for the plants to anchor itself, absorb the minerals, absorb the water, and of course we cannot have delayed seed germination, otherwise again that will give rise to a poor quality of the plants. All right, so this is all about your role of minerals and their deficiency, what will happen. So this time I'm not giving you any homework as such to do. You need to don't learn it as in you by heart it, but yes, you should be aware of what are the functions, all right, with the macronutrients and micronutrients. Definitely you should be thorough with the list. At least you should know, if I ask you what are micronutrients, you should be able to answer, and what are macronutrients, you should be able to answer, right? And next week I'll be sending you a consolidated worksheet for the entire chapter, which you can solve. All right, so take care of yourself and stay safe. Bye.